today. Quentin is a sophomore studying marine biology. When he's not busy as a student, Quentin is a campus tour guide for the Office of Admissions and plays a saxophone for the UH marching band. So thank you all again for joining us, and I'll turn it over to
Oof, a lot of people here. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and thank you for having me at this event. It really means a lot to me. Enough about me. We're gonna get straight into it. I'm gonna give you guys a short little summary of the guests that we have here today. So in the year 2016, Bryson started reselling sneakers in order to make an extra income for his family. Now he started uploading the sneaker resale process to his YouTube channel, Untied Hawaii, and he started rapidly growing in followers. He started pulling in 300,000 followers across all of his social media platforms and a whopping 30 million views on his YouTube channel. In 2020, he started High Connect Studios, which is a social media agency that represents today over 150 content creators, all with a cumulative following of 100 million. Please welcome me and please join me in welcoming our guest today, Bryson Honjo.
Thank you.
All right,
This is fun.
yeah. Okay, so could you just give us a little bit of insight into you as a person, your background, where you came from?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up on the island of Hawaii until I was 4 years old. Then I ended up moving to Las Vegas for about like 11 years. So I got to see a good mix of, small island and then also mainland culture. Then moved back to Kauai when I was like in middle school, and then, went to UH and stuff for my college degrees and stuff. I got a bachelor's degree in psychology. And then after that, I ended up getting a master's degree in counseling. So, both of those things are very sneaker related. So that was great. It helped prepare me a lot for my future job as a YouTuber. But on the real, I mean, it was a great experience, coming to UH and stuff, and like just seeing like a different mix of people and, culture and stuff. It was really good just because, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with like, smaller islands and stuff, but Kauai, it's a lot smaller, and there's not really like a sneaker scene per se out there. There's a couple guys here and there, but that wasn't really like heavy. So I started to see that a lot more when I came over here because, there's a lot more fashion per se. Yeah.
For those who don't know, for the uninitiated, what is a sneakerhead, and like what is sneakerhead culture?
That's kind of a long question. Well, no, it makes sense. I mean, it's just people that love sneakers. Yeah, it's people that love sneakers. So there's definitely like, it sounds weird for people that aren't into it. But this is with like all communities, right? Like whatever you're into, people on the outside look into it and they're like, I don't really get it. I don't understand. And I get the point where it's like shoes. It's like, that's something you put on your feet and you don't really think about for, the vast majority of people. However, the 1% of people who really like care about it, they care about, the design of it, the history behind it, what significance it had when, Michael Jordan won a championship in it. So there's a lot, like a rich history behind it, and just really like a devout group of people that really care about it. And then also there's like resale aspects and stuff as well, which I'm sure we're gonna be talking about too. So yeah, that's like the quick and easy of it.
Gotcha. Looking around, I do not see a lot of sneakerheads currently.
These guys for sure.
So like you said earlier, you got your bachelor's in psychology and you got your master's in vocational rehabilitation counseling.
Yep.
Did you always plan on using that in entrepreneurship, or do you ever wish you could have like changed what you were doing?
I go back and forth on that like a lot. I feel like, counseling and psychology was something that I always liked because I like connecting with people, and that played a massive role into what I do like today. Like it seems weird because how does that really fit in with like YouTube or other things? But a lot of it is like interpersonal relationships. It's just online, right? Like when you make a YouTube video, you're trying to connect with somebody behind the computer. So you want to like figure out, what's that person's interest? Why are they watching you? All of this. So psychology really helped with that. But there were times where like when I first was coming into UH, I was thinking, okay, business is the way to go. You can use it for so many different things. And psychology, it felt like a really like niche like thing, but I don't know. I don't think I would change it per se, but there are times where I think like, okay, what if I got that MBA, Let's see what happens then. But we're still here, so yeah, that's what matters.
Why did you start your YouTube channel?
That's a really good question. I still ask myself that to this day, to be honest. Like for me, just thinking about this, like, talking in front of people and stuff, this is really weird for me still, because I was always that kid in high school where if you have to give a presentation, I would call it sick because I didn't want to do the presentation because I was scared of being in front of people. So you know, the same thing where you're like, okay, YouTube is like, you're putting yourself out there for not a couple, like hundred of people. There's like millions of people on YouTube, like scrolling all over the place with it. So it was really like, I didn't really like understand the gravity of it, I guess. And it was more like, I was doing it from the comfort of my home. So it felt safe, you know, I could just do it on my own time. It wasn't really like, you know, actual eyes and stuff watching when you're filming it. It's only when you post it that people can see you. So I was just trying to document my own journey, really like reselling sneakers and stuff as more of something for like the personal. Never, ever thought that I was going to be like anybody watching. And then when people started watching, that was what got weird. So yeah. I mean, it's pretty strange, man. Like the first, if you don't mind me talking about this, yeah. So like how the YouTube grew is in the first year, or actually the first couple months, it was mainly like a couple like dozen views here and there. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. You know, some people are like trickling in and they're seeing it for whatever reason. And then over like a 6 month span, it was like getting a couple thousand views. And again, you got to remember I'm from Kauai, which is a very small island. A couple thousand people is a lot of people. You know, that's like a lot of people. That was my entire high school. So when you think of it as like your entire high school watching you, you're like, okay, that's kind of intense. And then we got our first 1,000 subscribers in the first year, which doesn't seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but I took that like, you know, that's a lot. The second year, we ended up doing like, you know, a couple thousand views every single video, ended up getting to like 10,000 subscribers. And I was like, okay, this is getting pretty crazy. And then third year, we hit 100,000 subscribers. And, you know, it was 50,000 average views, so 100,000 average views a video, which is insane. That's more than the population of Kauai, like literally everybody on the island. So I was just like, I kept putting it in those terms, and it just kept getting more and more like wild. But you know, what really keeps you going is like seeing like the positive feedback and stuff. You know, like it was great at the start where a lot of like local Hawaii people were watching the channel because it's Untied Hawaii. So those are the guys that are going to click on the video. But then eventually it started getting to like people all over the world, you know, like a couple guys in California saying, oh, I'm checking in from over here, or guys from New York, then people from Australia, Philippines. I was like, okay, this is wild. So yeah, it was pretty cool. And you know, we had continued to grow. So just kind of like went with it as it continued to grow. Yeah.
That's a really good story.
It's wild to me
Yeah.
just hearing it back.
Because in preparation for this interview, one of the main things I was doing was just watching a lot of him, a lot of his videos. Starting out from, you know, when you were on the floor of your room with your laptop filming and there's dogs going on in the background to 6 years later, doing these big old mystery boxes where you're unloading these shoes. I guess what's the most interesting thing about it is, from my perspective, you kind of stuck out, because I don't think I would know personally a lot of people who would stick it out, you know.
And yeah, no, that's a really big thing. Like I know a lot of people like try to take it super serious and then they like, you know, burn out within like the first couple of months, because we are in like an instant gratification culture, right? So if you don't see immediate success, people are just like, okay, this isn't going to work, or I'm not good enough at it. Where I didn't go into the mindset of like making YouTube thinking that I was going to grow massive. So I think that's the difference, right? Where for me, it was more casual, and anything that came, I just felt like it was like a blessing. Like, this is cool. People are watching. So if you come into it with that mindset, I feel like it's a lot easier to kind of stick with it, because you have no goals, you have no expectation, right? But if you're thinking like, okay, I want to be, you know, the next Bretman Rock, like in a year, like, okay, good luck with that. If you don't hit that goal, man, which you probably won't, it's going to be rough sledding, you know? So it's really like, I tell everybody, like, if you want to grow big on social media, no matter what it be, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, just give it at least a year. Like, you have to give it a year of trying, like, you know, testing what works, you know, getting better at editing videos, finding out what people like for content, and then really just sticking with it. Because the whole thing is like, all of these social media apps, they reward the people that are posting like a lot and consistently. Doesn't need to be every single day, but for YouTube, what I know is if you're posting at least once a week, you get flagged into like their system saying, okay, this guy's like starting to take it as a serious career. Let's try to give him a little bit more exposure. And I'm sure it's like that across the other apps as well. Yeah, so consistency is key, like 1,000%.
So what's interesting about your channel specifically in terms of sneakerhead culture is that you're kind of in this niche where you don't necessarily have to go along with the trends, but it may be not beneficial if you don't. Did you ever find yourself struggling of like when 2016 slime videos were like a thing, just being like, man, maybe I
Isn't that still a thing now?
I think so. Like, you know, with kids or whatever.
Yeah.
But did you ever find yourself being like, maybe I should try to capitalize on this trend, or maybe I should try to hop on this bandwagon while I still can?
So there was a lot of like testing and stuff with that. Like when you're going through it, yeah, you definitely are trying to like look for, okay, what's working for somebody else? Because at some point you're like, okay, I want to grow, and there's like a concerted effort to make that push. However, for me, one of the things that I knew going early on was because the sneaker culture is like so small, there's only like a set number of influencers that make it to like the level of work we're talking about. I didn't want to watch any of their content to get any ideas because I didn't want to be like subliminally like taking their ideas and making it my own, because then it's just becoming like you're just copying whatever is working for everybody else. And I think one of the unique things about the channel that we were doing was focusing on like mystery boxes or worn sneakers, which nobody was really doing at that time. Like, not really. There would be a couple of videos here and there, but nobody really leaned into it. So I kind of just made that my own, focused on like, the dollar values of shoes, which always get people like hyped because most people don't realize like some shoes can go for $5 grand, 10 grand. So when they see that, they're like, wait, what? And then, yeah, that's kind of how it went. But that was a big thing for me. I never watched other people's content in my sector. I would watch guys like Mr. Beast, or like people doing it really big outside of my niche. So that way I can see what works from their perspective, but not necessarily copy like other sneaker content.
Yeah, that segues pretty well into the next point I wanted to get into is when I was doing a lot of research on you specifically, one of the first things I saw was Bryson Honjo buys a Nike NFT.
Oh, that was, yeah. Yeah, that's
the first thought of my mind was like, wow, this guy has money. I should ask him for money. And then I thought, what is a Nike NFT?
I'm still trying to figure that out too.
Why did he buy it?
So yeah, that was an interesting thing. So when you're doing like the influencer stuff, like what you don't see in the background for a lot of people is like the mass amounts of emails that you get from like companies or like wanting to do brand deals or people wanting to do interviews. So I saw a random email one day from a guy doing a New York Times article. So that's where that ended up coming, like where everybody got to see it, was from this reporter wanting to learn more about it. But that stemmed from me making a video where I bought a Nike NFT, which this is weird to say. At the time, it costed like 5 Ethereum, which resulted in a $15,000 sneaker that you can't even wear because it's an NFT. But I was like, okay, it's Nike. It was their first project. And, you think about it going back to like the first like Air Jordan, the 1985 Jordan 1s for people that know. Those are a really like coveted shoe. It kind of is what started the entire like Jordan line. And a lot of sneakerheads like go back to that as like a grail sneaker. So I was like, okay, first Nike NFT. If NFTs become a big thing and everybody's talking about metaverse and Mark Zuckerberg wants everybody in there, we're all gonna be like just in our rooms and like helmets and stuff in a metaverse. I was like, yeah, I want the first sneakers over there. Who knows? So I ended up getting a couple of those. It was like a mystery box format, which made perfect sense for the channel. Opened it up, got a decent shoe, which ended up like, I think at the time after you opened it, it ended up making the value like 18 or 19K. So I was like, okay, cool. I made money on this. And literally like a couple weeks after is when the entire like crypto market started tanking. So I like sold right away. And I think I broke even on most of it, but I was like, yeah, that could have been real bad. Cause now I think that same thing goes for $3 grand. So you could have lost 12K off the rip. Yeah, it's risky. So that was probably one of my worst purchases. But I sold it in time before the crash. Yes.
I'm glad you sold it.
Everybody was always asking that because they're like, oh dude, you must be like sad about that. But
yeah, because it was a big thing. It was
15K. Yeah, 15K, that's a car. And I couldn't even wear this shoe, I couldn't even like display it. NFTs are weird. I don't know. If you guys are into that stuff, help me out after this. We can talk about it.
So you've done countless interviews, from being on nightly news organizations to sneakerhead culture organizations, and now doing a interview with a scrappy kid from Ohio. What is?
It's my favorite one, by the way.
Yeah, it better be. It better be. What is, if you have one, your least favorite question or most repetitive question that you've been asked on these types of things?
That's a good question. Well, the standard question is, like origin of it, which I actually really like talking about. But then the thing that I always get, and like they talk about the money aspect of it for like sneakers, or how expensive is your collection or stuff like that. And for me, like I never really like looking at the dollar value of it, because personally, again, like I love sneakers and stuff, but at the same time, like a lot of what I had in my room, I would never wear. So it was more for like display or for video purposes. And at those points, like when you're talking to people and they're like, okay, so how expensive is your collection? Then I have to like give a dollar value. It made me feel kind of like gross, because when you tell them it's like, oh, 50 grand worth of shoes, then it's like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. And then they just don't understand. And I get it. That's the thing too. It's where most people will spend like, 50 bucks for a pair of Vans and that's good enough. And for me, that was usually the case when I was in high school and stuff, because I didn't have a lot of money growing up. So I still respect that a lot, like just having a couple pairs and your go-to. So I actually gravitate to that a lot more than when people are trying to like get a response for, oh, how expensive is it? Are you in the 100 grand or 200 grand? What are we looking at? Yeah, that kind of like is something that I'm like, but I know they're gonna ask because you have to. So
Right.
Thank you for not asking.
Yeah. So how much is your sneaker? But one thing I did want to ask, because you work in social media and you take it so seriously. It's something that I have recently started working in, being the admin for our university's TikTok page, specifically for the Mānoa admissions page. So doing that, I've kind of likened social media to going into a casino. Sometimes it's like an absolute crapshoot, and sometimes, when you're big, you're on top of the game, you're trending. But then one video later, and it's just like all gone. Do you have any advice for those who are like, sticking to like social media, trying to make it out? And I know it's very easy to phrase it into these short common parables of like, oh, just keep your nose to the grindstone, or just like work hard. Is it difficult, like giving advice to would-be influencers about that type of stuff? Because I think it can be kind of difficult.
I think it's to just set realistic goals and expectations, right? Like, again, like it's always good to think like you can become like, the next Mr. Beast or, PewDiePie or whatever it may be, massive social media influencer. But it's really like a lot of it comes down to luck, and you can make the best content in the world, but if nobody clicks on your video, it doesn't matter. Like, that's the main thing that I tell everybody. So spend a lot of time, like, really like finding a good thing to make a content on, and then spend a lot of time on titles and thumbnails and stuff where you'll get that first click. But it's also a lot of just, and it's going to sound cliche, but making what you really like, because if you're only trying to make like the viral video and you don't really enjoy it, you're going to get burnt out real quick. And if you don't see success with it, you're going to just feel like, like this is a waste of my time, or just feeling really discouraged. But if you make something that you actually care about and you actually love, even if it doesn't take off, if you go back to it and it still brings you joy and you're like, I remember that was fun, then that's what really matters, and that actually can make you feel a lot better about where you're going, make you want to keep creating content. But yeah, dude, like getting that first click is everything. And so when people talk about clickbait and stuff, I never tried to do that, but it's so hard not to, because you really need that first initial click, because that's the whole thing that's going to spur everything, I actually do like a lot of research into the space, and I know like Mr. Beast, he actually hires 6 people just to create thumbnails for him. Like just the thumbnail, like not even the video stuff, 6 people. So he makes like 40 or 50 thumbnails at a time. Then that team just, builds on that, finds out what's good. They like test it with people, and they use all of that resources and time and money just for that picture that you see, which is normally pretty plain, but they got it down to a science. He's massive, so it works. But yeah, some things people don't think about. It's a big thing though.
So I'm gonna start making slime videos.
Good, yeah, with good thumbnails and titles.
Good. So one thing I did want to ask you about, because this is somewhat of a recent development, when I started watching your channel, I felt like, oh, this is like one of my first times being on YouTube. I stumbled upon a lot of small time creators at the time, a lot of Ryan Higa, PewDiePie type guys, and I was like, wow, this is like kind of a hidden gem that I feel like I found. And I felt the same initial way when I saw your channel. I started keeping up with your videos, and they were just so interesting. As such a personable guy, like you're just so likable. And then I see I'm quitting YouTube. And I'm like, nah, man, I just found his channel.
No, that was a clickbait one, it was nothing, no, but yeah, no, so yeah, I actually, made that because, and I normally wouldn't do that kind of thing, because I would just be fine, like, just kind of like, sifting off and not really like making a big deal of it. But you really do come to the realization that some people actually like really care about your content. Like, even for me, if it was just like making mystery videos on sneakers and stuff, and like I just was like, okay, it's just whatever to me. Some people really cared about that. Like, I would post on the same day every single week, Friday at a certain time, and people would like religiously go at that time to watch that video for whatever reason. They just found comfort with it, whether they're like eating their breakfast or like taking their break from work or something. And so I would see like, dozens or hundreds of comments of people just saying like, man, thank you for, making content and stuff. And in my head, I'm still like, it's just sneaker videos, guys. When it means a lot to them though, it's genuine and you get that sense. So yeah, I had to make a video about like leaving the YouTube grind just because, this is also something people don't really think about when you looking at like social media influencers and stuff. When you really think about like who's been here since like the start of like Instagram or the start of YouTube, there's not very many people that come to mind that are still like getting massive numbers. Like you mentioned Niga Higa, like he left YouTube completely as well, and now he's on Twitch. And it's also just because there's a level of burnout that happens, and also just a level of like, if you're watching somebody for 10 years, if you're not innovating and stuff, you're eventually going to lose like that love for that content or for that person. So people can be really good at it, like PewDiePie, who keeps, changing what his content is and stuff, and that's what he's good at, or Mr. Beast making, crazier and crazier videos. But for a lot of the big name guys that you used to watch maybe like 5 years ago, you probably don't see them making content anymore. It's because everybody has like a lifespan with the influencer side, because it's just, that's the nature of how it is, like popularity. I liken it to like TV shows and stuff where Friends, I don't know if you guys watch Friends, very, very popular TV show, or The Office, another very popular TV show. Watched that like 20 times. The Office. Those guys were like at the peak of like celebrity and everybody loved what they were doing, but the show has to end. And they lose their popularity after that for most of them, unless you're like Jim Halpert, killing it on all of these like director. That's the rare case for the Jennifer Aniston but for the most part, the other guys, they're like in smaller things and stuff now, but that level of celebrity is not there anymore. So it's just common course. Like if these like A-list celebrities can't do it, it's gonna happen naturally for like influencers and stuff as well. So you really got to like look when to pivot and how to like, diversify your content into something else, knowing that there's going to be like a cutoff period for your growth. So my channel was still doing very, very good, where we were making a great amount of money. But I knew it wasn't sustainable for like the next 5 years or 10 years, so I was trying to pivot into different things. I created like the influencer marketing company, which we can talk about too. But ultimately the decision to like leave the YouTube grind was because I found a great opportunity working at Whatnot. Everybody go download Whatnot right now. I'm working over there as a sneakers partnership manager. So still doing what I love with sneakers, but now I'm helping build like other people's careers on this platform, and hopefully, making them in a position where I was, selling sneakers and getting big. So yeah, passing it forward, which is awesome.
You don't mind me asking, because I did want to get a little bit into that Whatnot point.
Yeah.
So what exactly is your role in Whatnot? Like, are you on Zoom with these other content creators, going like, oh, this video needs a little bit more slime? Or
like... You really like that slime. I see that. So yeah, for Whatnot, it's a social media app that recently was just evaluated at a $4 billion valuation. They've been in business for about 2 years now. So they're considered the darling in tech right now, like a once in a decade company. So you talk to me. I guess the hookup's there. But yeah, really, so it's like, I liken it to like social media, because what it is live shopping, right? So you're streaming like you are on Twitch, but you're able to sell things like you would on like Amazon or, Shopify or something. So they put those two things together. So now we can go live, like, like this would be a live session, except we're trying to sell this water bottle. People can bid on it, all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still a social media, because you're the person in front of the camera, where traditional e-commerce is like you're taking pictures of whatever product you're trying to sell, and then you're just a username or a brand, right? Nobody really knows who you are behind it. They just see your product. Where now with live shopping, you can help really use like your business acumen and sell that product. So that's what I'm doing over there now, is working with guys doing selling sneakers in the sneakers category, and really helping them like build a bigger following on there, create more sales, become more engaging, like making good thumbnails and good titles. Yeah, so it really like is just leveraging what I learned in like YouTube and social media and sneakers into like literally the perfect job right now. So it's been great, and just the level of like love that you see from people when you really help them grow their business is just insane. So it's been awesome. Yeah.
And a point I want to harp on is you never had anyone to teach you like how to do the thumbnail, exactly like what are the best times to upload, that type of stuff. That is all things that you had to figure out.
Yeah. And so that's another thing that's overlooked for social media influencers and stuff like that too, is like when you get into it, most times you don't know what the heck you're doing. Like some people will go in and they know how to use Final Cut or Adobe Premiere to make a video. Most people don't. Same thing with like Instagram. Some people know how to use Photoshop. Most people don't. So once you get in there and you're really like taking it as a career, you have to like look up all this stuff on your own. And there's a plethora of information out there. Like you can Google how to, what size is the correct thumbnail, or How do I do this on Photoshop? So I was really doing that a lot at the beginning, like learning about Final Cut Pro, which is a video editor for Apple. Really like trying to figure out all of these things. And it takes a lot of time in the beginning. But once you like with any skill, you keep doing it over and over and over, it becomes second nature. So originally videos would take like 6 hours to edit. And then eventually it took like 45 minutes just because that's what happens when you start learning all the hotkeys, what to do. But yeah, that's something people really miss. Like it's just all of these little small nuances, especially like another thing is the business side of it. Like when you're really doing social media as like a job, there's a lot of business stuff that comes into play. You have to form an LLC because if you make content that you're going to get sued for or something, if you don't have an LLC, you can't protect yourself and your assets. So you don't know about that. So you have to learn, okay, what do I do to make an LLC? You have to learn about like, bulk buying for like boxes or something in order to find, the best prices. Really like doing a lot of like bookkeeping and stuff, which is not something you normally do in like everyday work unless you're like an accountant or something. So you really need to learn like all of these skills and nobody tells you this. Like that's the weird thing too, where there's no training program or playbook. Like if you want to be an influencer, do this, and you'll be successful because everybody's journey is different, right? And everybody starts at different places. But yeah, it's a lot that you don't really know like happens in the back end. Yeah.
That was very insightful. So earlier I mentioned High Connect Studios. I just want to like give you just the platform so you can talk a little bit more about what that is and
Cool.
what you do there.
Yeah, so literally everything that I said, where there's no like playbook and stuff on like how to become an influencer, like people working with you to like grow your business there. We wanted to create that company, High Connect, which is we're working with social media influencers in order to help them grow their platforms and really get them on like pace to become bigger and better. So we really do help with like a lot, getting like brand deals, talking to like other agencies, figuring out your pricing and stuff, which is another big thing people don't know about. When somebody's saying, hey, you want to do an ad for Poshmark and I'll give you $500 when you're really worth like $5 grand, but you don't know you're worth $5 grand. You take that 500 and you're like, yeah, I made a good amount of money, but you were just taking advantage of. So there's a lot of things like people just don't tell you. You never know how to price guide on things. So we're really working with them. And ultimately, it's just growing like smaller channels into bigger channels, creating more opportunities for people. And thankfully, it can be remote because we have like creators all over the place. Like there's this one girl that we work with. Her name is Kyun. She lives out in Yakutia, Russia, which is the coldest place on earth. It's literally the small village that is like negative like 50 degrees or some shit all the time, year round. Yeah, but her videos pop off. She gets like 13 million views because people are like, wait, that's possible? You can live somewhere that's like negative 50 degrees? So hers is very, very viral content. But at the same time, working with her has been great because she also doesn't know like, okay, how do I price guide on all of this? Because she got like instant fame, especially from like, viral videos. So there's some people that are like that. They'll get viral really fast and then they have to figure it out like quick. Or there's like the slower uptrend like myself where you can have time to like learn how to price guide and do all of this things. So you can like fend for yourself out there.
Gotcha.
It's pretty cutthroat, man. There's so many people trying to take advantage of you. It's crazy.
All right. That's actually a really good point because that is something that I have noticed, especially with the social media aspect of starting the university page. There's a lot of people who are commenting, who are trying to like reach you in the DMs saying, like, oh, we can help you out with this, we can help you out with
A
that.
lot of it is spam, a lot of it is scams. And yeah, some people really just want to help, but it's hard to discern what's what out there. Yeah, because it's crazy. Yeah.
So my main takeaways are start posting slime videos.
There you go, yeah, there's slime again.
Russia, start posting slime. So there are two questions that I was the most excited to ask you about. The first one, I'll just start right off the bat. So I feel like each person has this one thing. I would say it's called the one that got away type item. For you specifically in sneakerhead culture, I wonder if you have something like that. I know for other people, it can be like a vinyl record that came from your favorite rapper who, it no longer sells for under like $100. Like you're never going to find it ever again. Or a Power Ranger toy that, started discontinued the year after you were born that you can never find ever again. Do you have that one thing that got away, specifically a sneaker, if any kind?
Yeah.
You wish you could have had?
Yeah, 1000%. Well, wish I could have had, or like just a big regret with it?
A big regret.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I recently sold a lot of my sneaker collection last year, which was another big video because people are like, why are you selling your collection? But we ended up selling. Yeah, we ended up selling that and buying a house with it. So I mean, it worked out really well. But one of the shoes that I sold with that was this pair of Nike SB Dunks. It was a canary yellow pair. And now I think I sold it at the time for like $4,000, which was great because I bought it for 1,000. So I made a great amount of money on that. But now if you want a pair, it's like 10 grand. So it's a pair that I'm never going to want to get back at this point, right? Especially if you got it early on at 1,000 and then now you have to pay 10 grand for it to get it back. It's like, it's pretty crazy. And again, wearing $10,000 on your feet is insane. I also think that, and I'm a sneakerhead. It's crazy. It's 10 grand on your feet. But yeah, that one I really regret just because that was the shoe I proposed to my wife in. And there was a lot of really like good memories with that. And I just really love the yellow shoes. It's a bright yellow shoe. I wish you could pull it up, but yeah, it looks kind of like this in shoe form. Close enough.
What if I told you?
Yeah, there we go.
So you sold it for that. You didn't even give it to your best friend Quentin. Who could have for like the low.
Yeah, sorry, man.
$0.
Yeah, that was my bad.
Yeah, that's right. Also, I'd like to mention I'm wearing the Rohan Wang fly leather shoes just for him. He did not.
I would also like to mention.
Walked in here, he did not give me a compliment on these shoes.
No, I told him. No, I said they were nice, but okay. Here, show him the other shoe. They have to get the tag on it still. That's
It's verified authentic. It's the authentic tag.
Do not keep the StockX tag on your shoes, guys. Don't do that.
Yeah,
You keep it on your shoes.
listen to the sneaker guy
Cut it off.
or the guy in the top. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have a pretty big following. I think I know. The
Mānoa Ignitions fan account.
This is the guy. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that whole thing, like for me personally, I actually had like beef with that company. So yeah, we don't need to get into that too much. But whenever I see that tag, I'm just like, oh,
The Nike's Adidas. It's gonna be Adidas. The other question I wanted to ask you is, I'm a big fan of your Twitter account specifically. Every other day that I'm bored, I'll just go through and look at your tweets and see the funniest upon funniest things you tweet. One thing you tweeted though was a poll. It was, is Curry a top 5 NBA player? Most people voted yes, but it was pretty 50-50 split, but you didn't give your own opinion. So I want to know,
oh man, that's on the spot.
do you think Curry is one of the best NBA players? And if you had to do a top 5 starting lineup of current NBA players, who would they be?
So this is the question that gets me canceled.
We end the interview right here.
Yeah,
I take over the channel.
We're gonna cut this out. I don't know, man. Personally, like the landscape right now for top 5 is pretty competitive. I really love NBA. Just restarted up again, right? We're in like day 3 or something, which is great. There's, Luka, LeBron still up there, Giannis, Kevin Durant. There's a lot of good names up there. Steph Curry is really, really great. But I don't know. I think the question was all time.
Yeah, you said all time.
In all time, there's no freaking way.
worse.
No, there's no way. And there's no conversation that you can say. For all time, there's so many good names you can pick. Yeah, so just Jordan and LeBron, that's 2. You have 3 spots left. And out of everybody, no.
That's fair.
I would like people to come and combat me with this though later on. If you think Curry does belong in there, Golden State fans, let me know. Is that you?
No.
Yeah, see?
Okay,
I'm not canceled. We're good.
This question was preparing my top 5 starting lineup. I was like, I'm gonna have to cut.
See, exactly. It's tough. It's tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
but what's cool about that, or like those questions about NBA and why I asked that, is because basketball culture and stuff is so ingrained with sneaker culture, because literally like all of your favorite shoes were worn by like Jordan, or was worn by Kobe, or it was worn by whoever it may be. So there's just so much overlap with it. Same thing with like hip hop culture and also sneakers. So that's what I really like about it, is like it's a small niche market of people that really care about sneakers, but it also can extend into different like avenues of like culture, whether it be hip hop or sports or whatever that looks like. So that's what I really like, because you get to meet a lot of diverse people. Yeah.
I can imagine, especially being from where you are, and maybe taking vacations out to mainland, sneakerhead culture there, just how different it is between different states, but just like overall speaking, like from a sneakerhead perspective, it's probably like everybody has a little bit of a respect for each other, and especially considering how you are, even if you don't want to say yourself, kind of one of the pioneers of sneakerhead culture.
Yes and no. There's a lot of not so great people in sneakers. Like you'll see it. Like there's so many like fakes and stuff that happen, and people knowingly selling fakes to try to make money and stuff. So overall, if you can meet good people, that's great. But I definitely feel like it's a very regional thing. Like for instance, I was just at a Dallas sneaker con like this past weekend, and Dallas was actually a very, very I was expecting it to be a little bit more like cutthroat and stuff, but everybody was very nice over there. That's not the same if you were to go like to New York sneaker con or something, or some place more competitive. just because there's more people trying to make money more so than like wanting to be like actively in the culture, you know. So it really depends from place to place. Hawaii is super unique in the fact that everybody is pretty like ingrained with it here, and there's not really like scamming or weird stuff going on because basically everybody knows everybody here, right? So if you try to pull that stuff, you're pretty much disconnected from the community at that point. Yeah.
Notice how he said scamming is a big problem, but if you had a verified authentic sticker.
Okay, for the guys,
It's gonna be no.
yeah, I'm gonna say it. So for the guys that don't know that company StockX, we actually have a higher valuation from them now, whatnot, just saying. Anyway, that company StockX is always under hot water for selling fakes. So literally by wearing that, it might actually still be a fake. That tag doesn't mean anything. Yeah, I know. That does not mean anything to me. I hope not, man, because I didn't spend money.
It's real to me.
No, I mean, yeah, that's the whole thing too. It's just this whole market of like fakes and stuff is so like lucrative, right? And they're getting so darn good with it because for people that don't know, the way the fake like market works is Nike contracts out to like factories, you know, overseas, wherever it may be. And they actually give them the molds for shoes. And, you know, they're saying, okay, make 100,000 of these. We need these in production, put it out. And then once that production is done, then that's actually when, you know, they say, okay, we're done with this factory. We're going to go to the next factory to make the next shoe. Nike doesn't take back the molds. So that's a weird thing, right? Because if you were trying to like not have fakes in the market, you would take back the molds. They don't take back the molds. So what happens afterwards is that factory continues to produce shoes that have the same molds, but they change slight variations of it. And I'm sure Nike knows this, but there's so much money to be made in that aftermarket. You gotta assume this is conspiracy theory. I don't know. Don't email Nike execs. I don't know what. I'm just saying, this is what I hear, you know, through the wire, but yeah, basically that's like what happens because the fakes are freaking really, really good. Like the only way you're going to tell is like, if you're like really like staring at somebody's sneakers and like examining it very, very closely. And nobody does that, you know, like for the most part, you're going to see it from like, you know, 10 feet away, 20 feet away. And you're like, okay, those are cool. I'm not going to be staring at it like, is that fake or not? Like that doesn't happen. So that's why I see so many in the market now. And people are really like buying, like trying to buy them because they're trying to get better prices for it, which I'm mixed about because I'm all about, you know, people like if it intrinsically makes you feel good, go at it. But if you try to sell it as authentic, that's where you have a problem, you know, because that's where it culture clashes with the culture. So.
When I get home, cutting off the tag, burning the shoe.
I told you this beforehand and he still did this. I tried to save him, guys. I tried to save him.
All right, so we're gonna open it up to a Q&A. So we're going to be taking any questions that the chat might have in Zoom, as well as any in-person questions. So I guess we'll start off if anybody in chat has anything, but if not, we can just do like a quick rapid fire.
Hi, I'm Sophie and I'm a jeweler, so I sell a lot of sterling silver jewelry online and I do pop-ups located in Oahu. I'm wondering, how do I take my business to a more international level and make connections with people out of the country so I can sell my jewelry there?
So it really depends on like how you're leveraging your social medias and stuff, right? Like, are you trying to actively be on like Instagram or like other places like that? And are you using like correct like tags and stuff to get it out to the international people? That's what I would say is really look at like how you're going about reaching out internationally. I will also do a plug for Whatnot as one of the best places for jewelry. I know the jewelry guy firsthand, so we could actually talk about that afterwards, where there's so much opportunity where you're trying to like get your business somewhere else, and being in Hawaii is very, very hard for like, you know, getting your face out there and stuff because we're a small island. So after you get your customer base here, where else are you going to go to? You can't really like drive over to a different state, do pop-ups over there. It gets very expensive. So having like a live shopping experience online, like through a Whatnot app and stuff, opens you up to a lot of people. So it's basically like having a storefront, but online 24/7, and then leveraging your personality and stuff to get more people that way. So there's not really a clear-cut answer. I know I kind of like dodged that around a little bit, but it is just putting yourself into as many social media platforms as you can, because trust me, you're going to be seen from multiple people all over the place. So as long as you're in the right tags, like using hashtags and stuff, which are supposedly dead, it still does work to an extent. So if you're putting like Japan jewelry or something, you know, that might hit Japan markets, and it's really just grinding after each customer that way. It's a great question though. Yeah.
We have a question from chat. What are the biggest challenges to being an entrepreneur?
The startup process. So very, very similar to, you know, the YouTube thing where I was saying you really have to grind for at least a year. Oftentimes for entrepreneurship as well, you really need to be grinding for more than just a year in order to see any kind of profits and stuff, right? So like being like a CEO of a company or running a startup, right? You need to actually think that you're not going to be profitable or be making any money for yourself for X amount of time, which is difficult, especially living in Hawaii, right? Cost of living is super high. You got to pay the bills. So that usually means working like another job while you're also like trying to chase this dream of being like raising your company from the ground up. So that's a really hard balance. But at the same time, you just need to continue to keep putting yourself out there and really doing the grind, which sounds cliche, like I said, but that is literally the only way to success is to continue to just push it out. Because I swear, like if you just keep at it, you will build a follower base, and there is going to be a tipping point where you're going to start seeing progress, making those sales and stuff. It's really just balancing how long can you stay sustainable doing this business, and for how long kind of thing. So that's what it kind of looks like. But yeah, that's always a challenge.
Is storyboarding your clips and videos worth your time when creating content?
Oh, that's okay. So that's a great question. So for me, when I was making videos, I really went with like the easiest route possible because I was working a full-time job. I was doing counseling, right? I was helping students with disabilities on the west coast of Oahu. So I was doing that from like 7 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. to like 5:30, and then I would come home, film a video, edit for all these hours, and then go to sleep and do it again. So at that point, I was like, okay, what's the easiest way to make content without spending more time, more hours? So storyboarding for me was like, yes, it's powerful because you can create like content like very, very specifically, but I didn't want to do that. For me, I just wanted to turn on the camera, get the video done, and then just be out of there, right? So I was like, okay, cool. What can I do to like get that done? Mystery boxes. Every single time you're opening up the mystery box, I don't need to change how it's done. The content changes for me because every box is different. So in that way, I was just like, okay, I have the setup, camera on, open the box. It's going to be different every time. That's new content for me every single time. And then just edit from there. So it really is like, depending on what you want to do for Zyler, whoever asked that question. For the guys like Mr. Beast, they spend hours and hours and hours on like creating like a good storyline. So in those regards, it's great. But for people that do like vlogs and stuff, those are more like free flowing. You just film yourself the entire day and you pick the best parts. So it really depends on like how invested you want to be, and what kind of like time you want to spend with it, which for me was, I did not want to spend time storyboarding. It's also like just like defeating too, if you spend that much time storyboarding, which I did for like a couple of videos, and they just don't pop off as much as like the ones where I was just like turning on the camera and going for it, so you really just got to lean into what works for you and, your own time set. Yeah.
As someone who did watch a lot of those videos where you weren't storyboarding and it was just mainly the mystery box, I will say it may be simple in like the concept, but I think the execution is so brilliant and just how like,
thank you.
Every time you do want to, keep watching it. Like I click on the next one, then you immediately click on the next one just because it's like almost addicting being able to watch these videos and just get immediate gratification.
Right. And so, that really is like a big thing that we kind of overlook with like being like an influencer on any social media as well, is like audience retention and really like leveraging data. So YouTube is super, super good at giving you all of these analytics. Like literally there's like so much analytics on there, from like watch time, viewer drop off, average views of like how many people are watching at this specific part of the video, how many people are skipping over this part of the video to the next part. And the best guys that succeed at this stuff are the guys that lean into data, because that's everything. It tells you exactly what your audience is watching, and then you tailor the experience based off of that data. So that's another thing too, with whatever you're doing, just really look at the data. If it didn't hit the first time, try a different approach and just keep looking at the data until you get it right, find what's working, and then, continue up that vertical, because they give you every tool you need essentially. It's just, are you going to be proactive in using it? Because a lot of people don't. They're just like, okay, these are my number of likes, or these are my number of views, and that's that. It goes way, way deeper, and you can really leverage that into creating a career on it. Yeah. Oh, hello.
I'm Dylan. So my question was, what are some tips you can give for future entrepreneurs that you're seeing?
Don't be afraid to ask questions of other people that have succeeded. So really like just that asking that question is a huge step, right? Like so many people just want to like, okay, try to figure it out for themselves, or they're like embarrassed to ask, or they feel like their question is like a dumb question. That's not really the case. You really need to leverage like as much as you can by doing like these sessions where you're asking questions, you're taking risks, you're talking to people, really just trying to put yourself out there. Like I have embarrassed myself so many times on LinkedIn by going into people's DMs and stuff, trying to ask like, okay, could you help me out with this? Or like, I'm trying to look into getting into this with this business. Can you like, give advice and stuff? So many times, like 90% of the time, they won't get a response. The 10% of the time that you do, super, super valuable. It could take you from like literally here to the next level, like instantly, just because they've seen that path. They've answered these questions that you have. They've done it and their business is successful. So you just really need to emulate that, which will look different because every business is going to be different. But if you're not asking those questions, you're never going to get an answer, and you're going to try to find stuff like through just quick Google searches, which is nice, but most of the time those are tailored or those are sponsored like pages and stuff giving information. So it doesn't really get you in like, the weeds with it. Whereas every entrepreneur will probably tell you like the startup is insane. You have to like diversify, you have to make big sacrifices, you have to hire the right people. And yeah, if you don't ask those questions, you're never going to get an answer. So just be bold, really. That's the main takeaway, being bold, which can be really, really hard. Yeah. No, I'm telling you, dude, I got some really nasty messages before. Like, dude, I don't have time for you. This is small stuff. I'm like, okay, sorry, I'm just trying to grow, but it works out, because you keep getting to the guys and those are not people you want to surround yourself with anyway. You don't want that person as a mentor. So really the people that will get back to you are the guys you want to like stick with because they can help you like in the long run. And I think they see it as like an investment of their time as well, where they might get something from you where they're missing it for their own business. So if those guys are the ones that really gravitate, and I feel like those are the best entrepreneurs that listen to other people's opinions, take feedback, and just really like, act on it.
You had a question.
Is Whatnot, do they offer for wholesale as well, or is it just retail?
We have both. Yeah. So it really depends. Like there's actual ways like in the background where you can partner directly with the partnership manager for your category and you can source like wholesale stuff to people that are selling on the app that don't have inventory. So like sky's the limit with our company. And we're one of the very few companies that will literally reach out to every individual seller, create a relationship, onboard them like manually and really like try to take a look at your business and how we can help you. The guy over there, his name is Kevin. You said you're in jewelry, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the guy's name over there is Kevin. We call him Jevin, Jewelry Kevin. He's the man. Yeah, so we'll talk after and I can definitely get you his contact. Yeah. Jewelry is one we're trying to grow a lot. So
We have another question. Right now, I use Premiere Pro when editing. What is a good step up when trying to make more high quality videos?
So that's a hard question because essentially there's going to be two factors that help create the quality, right? And it comes down to money and to time. So for the money part, the easiest answer is, get better equipment. So that'd be investing in like better DSLR cameras or 4K cameras, getting better microphones, but that is a very expensive cost in order to, up your video by X%, which is usually nominal. For the most part, staying with basic stuff, and I swear to God, like iPhone cameras are so amazing these days. You would be so surprised on how many people use an iPhone camera for their YouTube videos, like massive people, like massive people. Okay, yes, because I'm really close with the Titus sisters who are from Hawaii. They're on TikTok and also on YouTube as well. They have been using iPhones for forever. And it's not even the good iPhone, just like an old iPhone.
If they ever want to collab with them, another mission.
They're awesome. Yeah, I love those girls. But yeah, so it's really like that's one way, to up it up by buying better equipment and stuff, but there comes a cost. The other way is really like just spending a lot of time learning like new skills with Premiere. So I don't know like how active Zyler is with, how intense he is like looking up, okay, how do you do this transition? Or how do I do like this cool like effect? There's people that show you like literal step-by-step video tutorials of how to do each of these things, but it does take time to learn. Like the video itself could be like 20 minutes showing you, okay, these are the like tools that you have to go through. This is how it looks. And then you have to implement it for your own video, which takes time. But if you care about your product, you will put in those hours to like learn just one more small thing. That's going to be another like, tool that you have in your pocket for creating a better content or video. So it comes down to time or money. Which one do you want to spend? Everybody has time. I would probably lean into that one. Yeah. I love this. Entrepreneur. Asking the bold, be bold. Yes. What ads? So I'm always going to say influencer marketing. So you're thinking of like spending like on Google ads or Facebook ads and stuff and Instagram ads. It really depends on who your target demographic is. I can say that Facebook is very, very good. So Facebook is paired with Instagram, right? Both of those companies are very, very good in like targeting ads, but it becomes very expensive. Like Whatnot spends millions of dollars every month just for those targeted ads to get out to people, and usually for a lower return rate, because when you think about it, it's targeted, but you're still throwing it out into the void. Like you don't know exactly what buyers are looking at this, who exactly the person is behind the screen, because I'm sure you guys have done it before. You created an account, you said you're 35 on there when you're actually 22. You just, because you didn't care, you know? So the numbers become all skewed. Information and stuff isn't concise. When you're doing influencer marketing, on the other hand, you know exactly who the target audience is, because it's people like you who are watching the same level of content, right? So if you're watching like the Titus sisters, like we brought up, most of it is going to be like, you know, younger females that are watching, because that's primarily the demographic they're catered to. So if those are the people you're trying to hit, you just got to really pair up with these people. And for smaller influencers, rates are not super expensive. I heavily believe that influencer marketing is just going to continue to grow like more massive. Next year, there's like, I think there's a stat saying like 13 billion is going to be invested into influencer marketing by companies like year round, which is insane, because I think the previous 2 years it was like 3 billion and then like 7 billion or something. So it's like exponential, like people just continue to lean into it more. If you're working with smaller influencers, sometimes just giving product for them in return for a service, that works. So you save a lot of money there. But yeah, those are the best people, because you know exactly who you're getting there. Yeah. And you can create relationships, which is great. You don't create a relationship through a paid Facebook ad. You never see those people unless they're a buyer. That was nice. I saw that. All right.
What is one skill you would tell young college students like us to cultivate or work on that helped you the most in your life?
The most social interactions, one-on-ones like this. Like for me, again, like this is not something that I feel comfortable with. I'm extremely an introverted person, but you need to get out of your comfort zone if you want to be a good entrepreneur. So it's taking those risks and really like becoming a better like one-on-one interactor. Like it means everything. And that's why I said like I attribute a lot of success to like being a psychology major or a counseling major, because that is literally like what you're doing, is talking with people one-on-one, building connections. And those connections can take you like to crazy places. So really just being okay with just having conversations with random people, like just practice it, you know, just make friends with random people or talk to businesses and really get like their take on certain things. But if you don't ask those questions or really like try to put yourself out there, you're never going to get better. So that's my main thing. It helps so much for social media, and the fact that I talked with other guys in the YouTube space that were like willing to like, hey, I'll help give you a shout out on this page, right? And that gets you an extra 100,000 followers, right? But if I didn't try to reach out and make that interaction, that wouldn't have happened. But now, yeah, we're close friends, and they just do that like for free. We don't need to pay anything. It's just working together. But that's the main thing. It's like interactions are everything. It's so overlooked, because you're just like, okay, cool. It's gonna, if I get in touch with this person, it's gonna work. But proactively seeking it is so important, man. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think Addie's gonna come up here.
Cool. She actually has the best shoes in the room, by the way.
Yeah.
Those are Travis Scott's. Everybody knows Travis Scott. Walk in. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, does anyone have any other questions? No,
Awesome.
on Zoom? Anybody? Okay, so this brings our program to a close. Thank you again, First Insurance Company of Hawaii, for making this speaker series possible. And we look forward to seeing you all on November 9th, which is our next Entrepreneurship Live with Ed Schultz with Skills Hawaiian. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. No, yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Yeah.